When I look back now, I realize how one small, accidental moment shifted the direction of my entire life. At the time, I never imagined a situation so ordinary could open doors to secrets, temptations, and consequences I never thought I would face. My name is Laura, I'm 41 years old, and for the past 8 years, I've been married to Daniel. He has a son from his previous marriage, a young man named Ethan, who is now 21. The story I'm about to tell is not one of pride but of honesty. It began with an accident, something as simple as a bathroom door left unlocked, and spiraled into something that tested everything I thought I knew about loyalty, boundaries, and trust. It was an early Saturday morning. The house was unusually quiet because Daniel had already left to visit his mother, who lived 2 hours away. He had asked Ethan and me if we wanted to join him, but Ethan said he had some work to finish for his college class, and I felt like staying home to catch up on laundry and enjoy a slow day. The sun was barely up, and I had just gotten out of bed, hair messy and still half asleep, when I headed to the bathroom. I usually lock the door out of habit, but that morning, distracted by my thoughts about the chores I needed to tackle, I didn't. I had just started brushing my teeth when suddenly the door creaked open. I spun around in surprise, toothbrush still in my mouth, only to see Ethan standing there, equally startled. His eyes widened as he realized I was inside. For a moment, both of us froze in shock, and then he quickly muttered, "Sorry, I didn't know you were in here," before shutting the door again. My heart was racing, not because anything scandalous had happened, but because of the sheer awkwardness of the moment. I rinsed my mouth, finished quickly, and when I came out, I half expected Ethan to be embarrassed enough to stay in his room all day. But he was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop, trying to act casual, though his cheeks were still red. "Sorry about that," he said with a sheepish grin when I walked in. "I should have knocked." "It's okay," I replied lightly, forcing a laugh. Totally my fault for not locking the door. No big deal. But even though I brushed it off, something about that moment lingered in the air between us. It was small, almost insignificant, but for reasons I couldn't explain at the time, it left a strange energy that I carried with me throughout the day. I caught myself thinking about how grown Ethan looked. He wasn't the awkward teenager I had first met when Daniel introduced us years ago. He was taller now, his shoulders broader, his face more mature. He was still Daniel's son, still the boy I had watched grow up in our home, but he wasn't a kid anymore. I scolded myself for even noticing. It was natural, I told myself, to see the changes in someone who lived under your roof. But when I caught Ethan's eyes lingering on me once or twice that afternoon, quickly darting away when I noticed, I realized maybe I wasn't the only one who had felt something shift after that accidental encounter. Life went on as usual for the next few weeks, but that undercurrent of tension, silent, unspoken, was there. I would catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes he seemed nervous around me, other times more confident, like he was testing how far he could go without crossing a line. It wasn't just in my head. One evening, as I was folding laundry in the living room, Ethan came to help without me asking. He picked up one of Daniel's shirts and started folding, then asked, "Do you ever get lonely when Dad's away on his long shifts?" The question caught me off guard. Daniel worked in construction management, and sometimes his hours were long. I looked at Ethan, unsure of what he meant by the question, but his expression was calm, almost curious. "I keep myself busy," I replied carefully. "I'm used to it." Ethan nodded but didn't say more. It wasn't what he asked, it was how he asked it. There was a tone underneath, one that I recognized because I had been sensing it for weeks. He was noticing me as more than just his stepmother. And even though I knew I should shut that door firmly, something inside me didn't want to. Maybe it was the flattery, maybe it was the loneliness that I never admitted to anyone, or maybe it was the curiosity of being seen in a way Daniel hadn't looked at me in years. The turning point came one rainy afternoon when Daniel was out of town for work. The storm outside was heavy, thunder shaking the windows. Ethan and I were both in the living room, watching a movie. I had curled up on the couch with a blanket, and he was on the recliner across from me. Halfway through, the power flickered and then went out, plunging us into darkness except for the dim glow of the storm outside. We both laughed nervously, and he got up to grab some candles from the kitchen. When he came back, placing one on the coffee table, the room lit up softly, shadows dancing on the walls. I pulled the blanket tighter around me, and he sat down on the edge of the couch instead of going back to his chair. We were close, closer than we had ever been. The sound of rain filled the silence, and for a moment, it felt like the world outside didn't exist. "Laura," he said quietly, his voice almost swallowed by the storm, "can I ask you something?" "Of course," I replied, my heart beating faster than I wanted it to. "Do you ever feel like people don't really see you? Like they take you for granted?" His eyes met mine, steady and searching. I didn't answer right away, because his question struck deeper than I expected. Did I feel that way? Yes, often. Daniel loved me. I knew that, but over time his affection had become routine. We were partners, but the spark had faded. Ethan's question touched on a truth I usually buried. "Sometimes," I admitted softly. He didn't respond immediately, but the way he looked at me told me he understood more than he should. And in that quiet moment, with rain pounding against the windows and only the flickering candlelight between us, the boundary that should have protected us both felt thinner than ever. I wish I could say that nothing happened after that I stood up and firmly reminded myself of who I was and what was at stake. But the truth is, once that line blurred, we began to drift into dangerous territory. It started with longer conversations, little jokes only we shared, moments of closeness that went unnoticed by Daniel. And with every secret glance and lingering silence, the guilt inside me grew heavier. I knew what we were doing wasn't right, even if nothing had crossed into the physical yet. It was emotional, it was forbidden, and it was slowly consuming me. The real breaking point came one evening when I found myself alone in the kitchen washing dishes. Ethan came in, leaned against the counter, and just watched me for a while before saying, "Laura, about that day in the bathroom. I can't stop thinking about it. Not because of what I saw or didn't see, but because it made me realize how much I notice you." I froze, dish still in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. That was the confession I had been both dreading and expecting. I should have told him to stop, to never bring it up again. I should have reminded him that I was his stepmother, that this could never happen. But instead, I turned to him, and before I could even think, the truth slipped out. "I notice you two."